All right, well, let's jump in. I want to welcome everyone here back to Control Camp, where we're here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, having discussions about getting music in film, television, ad, movie trailers, and all the forms that music fits in media. And so today we have an awesome guest, Kelsey Mitchell, who we're going to have a great Q&A with her. And if you're new to us, we are a community built for independent artists who want to get their music in TV and film. So that includes commercials, ads, games, trailers, etc. I am one of your hosts, Eric. I'm a songwriter, composer, have music on a variety of shows like Greenleaf and Shameless and Love and Hip Hop, Revenge, and list goes on and on. My co-host is Daraj, who is an independent hip hop artist based out of Orlando, Florida. He's got extensive experience in sync, including credits with Call of Duty, Amazon, Facebook, Lionsgate, and VH1. And so we kind of bring our experience here to this room and then also leverage the experience of music supervisors, other songwriters, other composers, so that you have a variety of voices that can inform you about career in sync licensing, which is placing music in film and TV and other media. And so we're here each week. We have had some awesome discussions in previous weeks. And every week we try to either bring you someone different from a different perspective, or we try to provide certain information that you haven't had before. And so if you've been with us, you've kind of followed us for this ride. You know about our website, controlcamp.com, which is control spelled CTRL. And if you go there, you can get access to a lot of the previous sessions that we've done. So we put together a lot of resources. We don't just talk in the room, but we actually put together some PDFs that you can take with you, things that you can refer. And just in the 6 weeks, I think 6, 8 weeks that we've been here, we've done a variety of those. We've created a resource called the Top 24 Songwriting Themes that teach you what are the top themes used in the sync licensing world. We have another one that's the 4 ways to get your major music placements for TV and film. It's a foolproof plan that you can follow step by step. And we have from 2 weeks ago the 7 rules on how to engage music supervisors. So how do you compose emails? How do you reach out? How do you know when to reach out, or what's the right line between engaging someone you've never talked to and how to make those relationships? All this to say is that we've been growing as a community, and we're going to keep this community moving forward. So you're going to start hearing us saying less and less about the things that we've covered in the past. So when we get to the Q&A at the end, we're not going to really take on questions like, how do I reach you, or how do I contact you? And we may not do questions like, well, I have this music, how do I know if it's right for sync? We're going to direct all those type of questions to our website, so you can get either the PDFs that we've already done, or you can go to our Patreon and get access to the talks. We record all of our sessions, including today's. We take notes, detailed notes on all of our sessions. You should see up in the upper right-hand corner, Maya, our intern closest to the stage. She's taking notes for the Q&A, and all this we make available each week. So if you can't be here, or you miss something, all this is going to be available. So we're going to try to move forward and get us all quicker to the place where we're actually making pitches and putting songs out there and compiling our catalogs. So if you're new, we're going to kind of direct you to the site so you can catch up where we are, and we can all keep moving quickly together. All right, Daraj, where are we?
I think we're ready to jump into the interview. I think we have a special guest with us today, as mentioned, Kelsey Mitchell, who is the director of music for Ignition Creative, and she also serves in with the Guild of Music Supervisors, curating conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, yeah, Kelsey, I'm so glad you're here today, Kelsey. You've been,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I know you showed up to a few rooms that we've done, and you always have great input, and you seem very, very, passionate and a part of this community and desire to, really see it grow. And I just feel like you have a lot of wealth in which you can kind of share with our audience. And so I want to dig into it without further ado. And so I always like to say, what is the Kelsey story? How did you get here? Give us a little bit about your background and what kind of got you on this track to where you are now. Even with Ignition Creative.
For sure. So I'm actually pretty new to Ignition. I've only been here for about 4 months. Before that, I was music supervisor at Workshop Creative. They sound similar. That's because they are. It's another trailer house. There's a few, there's a group of trailer houses in LA. And so a lot of times that music supervisors jump between them as they see fit. But yeah, I went to UCLA and I actually went into live music right after college and stayed there for a few years. I did talent booking for the Bootleg Theater, which is like in historic Filipino town here in Los Angeles. And then I decided I wanted to pivot to synchronization because I knew that that was the best way to actually put money into musicians' pockets, seeing the way that the industry was going. And so I started pursuing that, did a stint at Focus Features for a while, did a lot of freelance before ending up at Workshop. And then I was there for 4 years, music supervisor. And yeah, now I'm at Ignition. I've also done 2 festival films, just wanted to see if I could, and I did, and it was hard, and and I will probably do some more, passion project films in the future because my job gives me the ability to be able to do that. So yeah, that's basically
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do want to also clarify because I want people to know that I'm a music supervisor for what we call theatrical advertising. So I don't do music supervisors for Ignition and Workshop for the shows and the films themselves. I do it for the marketing of those shows and films and networks and streaming services. So anything from a trailer to a promo to a subscribe to HBO Max to see these movies and more. Basically anything that falls within that realm of marketing the product, which is the TV show, the film, or the network, is basically the music supervision that I do at Ignition.
And that's a really good distinction to make as well, because I wanted to touch base on that because we were DMing a little bit, about the where the line I guess is drawn or how things differ from the title of director of music, which is your title at Ignition Creative, in addition to how that may differ from what a music supervisor is. So explain, and you may have already done it, but what is that difference, in the titles?
Right. So I mean, music supervision in trailers and marketing and promos is actually a relatively new field. Music supervision in film and TV started, years before this did. And so once teams at companies started getting larger, having multiple music supervisors, there became a need for there being a hierarchy. So a director of music is basically just like a super beefed up music supervisor who has a team underneath them that they dictate duties to and also handles like any of the administration that needs to be handled through the music department. So as the music director of music, I handle a lot more like clearances and licenses and quotes and all those types of things than I did previously. So like if in a basic hierarchy in a trailer house, it would be like music coordinator is the lowest, and they do like cue sheets and music library upkeep and things like that, and research. And then the music supervisor in the middle tier, who's mostly just there to do creative, and then the director of music, which does the big creative plus all the administration on top of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really helpful distinction. I was talking to Jessica as well. She's been a part of our camp meetings a lot, and we were having that discussion as well because it seems like in the in the trailer world, and I know, you're working specifically underneath an ad agency, but I was learning that there could be a bit of a different hierarchy within supervision for trailers than, potentially for, TV and film. But even, what you're explaining now from, music coordination to, the kind of the middle ground of supervision up to the director of music that kind of, oversees, even more. And I don't think we hear much about the director of music role, as much as the music supervision role when it comes to clearances, and kind of who are those gatekeepers that kind of, pitch and, place music, if you will.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I also forgot there. I mean, there's even a couple of people who have been directors of music for years that kind of like finessed a new title called VP of music. So you'll see that there's some music supervisors at trailer houses that have that title, and that's just like an even bigger title. It's basically just a way to like, because trailer houses are corporate, right? So it's a way to rise the ranks. Whereas like if you're a music supervisor for a film or a TV, like you're just a music supervisor, it's your freelance job, like you're doing it yourself and you're not in-house in a company or an organization. So it's just like a corporate hierarchy, basically a way to get, higher pay and better benefits and that kind of stuff.
Got you. Very cool, Kelsey. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about, I think it would benefit our audience, in general, just at a high level. How does trailer music differ from other types, or differ from other types of music in sync?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you said defer. I like that pronunciation.
Yeah, sorry. I'm
I
like, oh,
like
this is
saying words differently just for fun. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Melty Kit.
I think Melcy Kitchell here with defer,
Right.
defer. Yeah, so I think a lot of people tend to try and pitch the same things at theatrical advertisers like me as they do film and television, and it's simply not going to work, because I like to say that trailer music supervision is regular music supervision just totally cracked out, just totally roided up, because you need to get so much emotion and feeling and messaging across in at most 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but most of the time it's shorter than that. And even if you like, a TV promo, I've placed two cues squished into a TV 30. So you're getting a lot across really quickly. And so there needs to be more, I don't want to say drama as in drama, but it needs to be bigger and more layered and with a steep rise to climax and stop downs and cutting points for it to be perfect for a trailer. Of course, we always do end up taking tracks that don't have those things and we make them work, hence, really talented editors who will take stems and just go ape shit with them, or also all of the customizations that we do to music. But if a song exists on its own, which is preferable for studios who don't want to spend the money on extra customization, a good trailer song has a 3-act structure, just the way that a trailer does. A beginning, a middle, and an end, where that there is an intro and there is an outro and there is a large dramatic climax where everything accumulates and then it drops down again. That would be a structure that is best for trailer music in any genre, so that there is variations and levels for editors to play with and cut around with, and to set the tone and pace, because it's less wallpaper and more the main thing. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And see, when I started kind of in this sync space, I kind of have a bucket list of, to be able to have my music featured in like a major feature film trailer. And so I just kind of went, on a deep dive to just try to understand like how that world, functions, and kind of what the norms and standards and needs are, And I'm still learning every day. You know what I mean? Like it's the more I kind of ask questions and gain more insights, the more I realize there's more to to kind of learn because it seems a little nuanced at times. And for you, like when you are like sourcing music, for a particular spot, I mean, because you mentioned that it could be a standalone song, or there could be extra, composition that's needed to kind of give it that build and that arc. Like, are you all looking for songs that are, say an artist track, quote unquote, that doesn't have all of the typical um, things you would expect, a trailerized version of a song would have? Like, are you looking for it as its own song, or do you guys, get songs in that is then brought to that place of trailerization, where a composer maybe on your team, or like how does that dynamic work? Are you guys doing that in
Right.
house, or are you guys, bringing, working with other trailer houses to work on that? Like, how does that work?
So most trailer houses don't have in-house composers. We bring in a music house. Sometimes if I have a big budget, I'll bring in like three so that I get like three versions of a customization on one song, depending on who the client is. But all of these things are on a base to base like basis. Like if I'm working on a Disney thing, then yeah, there's no problem in taking it to a music house, saying I need V1 of a customization in a couple of days, and doing the same thing to another one, and basically so that I know I'm covered. Because if one of them comes back and it just isn't right, at least I'll have the other one. That's one of the questions you asked. But another question is, do we take songs as they are? Are we looking for them to augment? Do we want them to already be trailerized, quote unquote? Both. It completely depends on the projects and our turnaround. Like sometimes we'll have clients that come to us and are just like, we need a V1 by Friday, and it's like Tuesday. In those times,
Right.
we're not gonna we're not gonna have time to customize, right? So I'm gonna have to find something that stands on its own legs, or at least is manipulated by stems. And in times like that, I also will bring in my own trailerizing toolkit through sound design, pull stuff that is in the same key and the same BPM as the song, so that the editor can kind of trailerize it himself on the fly. And we will kind of mishmash that together and do that. If we have a long lead time, then yeah, we do export it for custom. And then also there's clients who don't need the bells and whistles of a trailerization, the power downs and the rises and the giant trailer drums and hits. Like a lot of the comedy trailers that I did at workshop are just as the song is cut, because comedy and family and things like that are more like, you don't need the trailerization. It's fine as is, because you want the jokes to stand out. So yeah, it's just completely on a project by project and client to client basis.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really helpful. And as you were talking, I was just curious, and I wanted to ask this earlier, just on I guess, get to know a little bit more about you and your background, because I just have a really like great appreciation for music supervisors, because I just feel like the knowledge, I feel like you have to have a very comprehensive knowledge of music, and almost be a music nerd of yourself, to really aspire towards that position. But I guess going back into Kelsey's history, like, do you have a musical background where, were you a musician, or did you play instruments, or you write songs? Because I imagine, I guess that's the first question. Secondly, if not, like, how did you kind of gain the ear training to be able to know, like, these are the type songs that are going to work and satisfy the client's needs? So those are kind of two questions. Like, did you have a music background, and or how did you
Right,
develop that
right.
ear? If not,
Yeah. So I mean, I played piano and guitar when I was a kid, so I can read music and I understand music theory. I didn't pursue it, as a musician or anything like that. I was very interested in going into music business, like, those who can't do supervise, I guess, was kind of my thought. Um, and yeah, when it comes down to supervision, you do have to have the correct ear. You have to be able to hear the difference between minor and major like chords, and you need to understand reading music and keys and BPM and all that kind of stuff. You do need to know all of that. But a lot of times, if you do have those basic skills, then a lot of it is just the sitting and listening. And I was blessed to have a really good mentor in Danny Exum, and he would help me. Like, I would do a poll and he would be like, this one's not good, this one's good, this one doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z, this one works almost if it had blah 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 blah. And he really was great at like leading me towards the right path, which, you know, it otherwise it'll take a lot longer through trial and error, you know, having to do a poll 17 times until the client is happy. And then everyone's upset because nobody's happy for 17 polls.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, how it says like if you reach like 10,000 hours of doing anything, then you become basically like the Bill Gates of your field. That's basically what music supervisors are once they get to about 6 years of listening. Because when you're listening to music, it's not just listening to bop, it's like listening for sync. You're listening like, okay, what are these lyrics? Is this a minor or a major chord? Like, how is this open? How is it mixed? Are these female vocals? And you're thinking about it critically while you listen. And if you hit 10,000 hours of that, you become the Bill Gates of supervision, apparently. And that's what we all hit at 6 or 8 years. It's literally just from listening critically every day for hours.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, because like we've been there was a course by Ron Tedder that's been going around, and one of the things within the course from the bit that I saw was that, you know, there's things he was even teaching, you know, as a songwriter that, you know, he had to kind of chalk up where, you know, as he's songwriting, he can't really explain all of how, you know, some of the melodies he comes up with or why he makes certain, you know, choices, because in some ways it's just been a culmination of just years of, you know, being inundated in music and writing and, you know, doing it consistently. And so it makes a lot of sense, you know, with that much time, you know, as you've been doing music supervision, that, you know, you just begin to develop that ear and having, you know, mentorship to help guide along that process. Obviously makes sense. Yeah.
Ryan Tedder's music songs are great too. I mean, he's a great example because he'll write on so many different artists' songs. He has like so many different side projects, and like he is a sinkable songwriter for sure.
Yeah,
he's great.
And I didn't realize the range he had as far as writing, because he's done songs with, you know, obviously
huge range.
Yeah, man. I mean, his brand, you know what I mean, with, you know, One Republic, but then he goes all the way to Tory Lanez, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, what can't you do, bro? You know what I mean? Very cool. So we're reaching 8:30 right now. Eric, do you want to do a quick room reset for the new people in here?
Yep, let's do it. So, all right, welcome everyone. If you are just joining us, this is Control Camp, and we are here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We are a community of independent artists that come together to learn about getting music placed in film and television. I'm one of your hosts, Eric, and co-host Daraj. We're both experienced in sync licensing. We both have numerous placements in a variety of media, whether it's television shows, video games, or film or advertisements. And so we are here today with Kelsey Mitchell, who's the director of music for Ignition. And we started at 8. We're going to do this Q&A this interview till almost 9, and then we'll open up for questions. If you've been here with us before, you know last week we rolled out this really cool after party, and that was just amazing. We got to I think there was like 50 people over there, and we got to just really know a lot of you. It was a less moderated forum than what we do now with the Q&A, so it was just kind of like open discussion, and we shared a lot. And so we're doing that again after today's. We're just going to keep that going. It's for club members only, so if you're not in the club, you can click on my profile or Daraj's profile, and at the very bottom, the first club at the bottom of the page is Control Camp, so feel free to follow and join. And then if you missed any of our previous stuff, we're we direct you to our website, controlcamp.com. The link is in our profiles, and that's where you can find out all the resources, all the education, everything you need to learn to get your music in film and television. So if you're new to us, while you're listening, go check that out so that you can see how you can catch up with us where we are. And back to you, Daraj.
Yes, thank you, Eric. All right, so Kelsey, we talked a little bit about your background, kind of how you arrived, to where you are now as director of music at Ignition Creative, which it seems it's a full service ad agency, and I always love seeing it. So here's a little background about me too. Like in conjunction of me doing music, I do a lot of branding as well. So I'm familiar, with the visual side of kind of agency components. So it's always a treat when I get to see, as I'm researching and doing, just researching and development for music and getting to know some of the players. I get to come across these agencies who also have like really, really great visuals and know how to, just curate that marketing experience kind of top to bottom. And so to seeing those two worlds, this kind of design and marketing and music kind of get fused together is really awesome. And so when it comes to the trailer world, and you guys are pulling tracks and getting this music ready for the spot that's in front of you. And I've heard it's kind of notorious that there can be several different revisions that can go on with any given trailer. And
several, yes.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, give us a little bit of like, draw the curtain back, because, and I don't know how it differs from, because you're specifically in the space of trailers for, marketing purposes and ads and promos, and like how does it work in this space, that you're living in, when it comes to just the amount of revisions that any one spot can potentially go through?
Right. Also, can I just ask you, is there a lot of background noise on me, or do I sound okay?
There's a
It's
little
a
more
little bit, but
now.
it's
okay.
It's not too bad though. Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
So the big distinction, I think, is when you're talking about like a traditional studio film, right? When you're talking about Paramount, Sony, Disney, these big Universal, these big studios that have this film that they want to release in theaters, let's act like Corona isn't a thing. And they need their trailers to play in theaters in front of other big blockbuster films. Those are the trailers that get up to like V75, which is as far as our Jumanji trailer got, I think it was
That's
V75.
crazy.
But and that is, those are the big fish. Like at Workshop, we definitely were more into studio trailers, and at my current company, we are doing all types of marketing. So like there is a world in which a TV30 promo for a TV show finishes on a V1 rev. Like that does happen. But that's, based on turnaround time, and it's a shorter piece of content, and they aren't in it for like all of their marketing budget the way they are a studio trailer.
Hey, Kelsey.
So it just depends. Yeah.
Just at a quick level, for the people who haven't heard those terms, can you break down a little bit, because you've used it a couple times, like V1 and some of the just what does that mean?
Right. So V1 is like version 1. So it's basically like an editor and a creative team at Ignition, say, with the copywriters and the graphics team and music and the editor all put together, basically a version 1 of how they think the trailer should go based on the direction the client gave them. And that is what they present to the client. Like, here's what we think the trailer should be. And then the client would come back and be like, cool, we hate it, and we need you to change everything. And then it would move on to a V2. And basically the revs are just like a billing nothingness. It's a way to, like, for them not to get billed for an extra revision. So it's just a little cheat. But yeah, and so it's like every time the client comes back and says, we need something changed, that's another revision. And so when you're getting up to a V75, that means that that poor editor has cut that trailer 75 times.
Wow. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Yeah, but wow, 75 revisions, that blows my mind.
Is that the
Oh,
most you've
yeah.
seen before, Kelsey? Like, what's the most
Most
revisions that you've seen?
That's the most I've seen in my career, but my mentor, told me that he saw like a 90 something once, and I was just like, no, you just have to walk out at that point.
Bro. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I mean, has it gotten to the places where like you go through all these revisions and they kind of want to backtrack to like an earlier revision? Like, is that? I'm assuming that's probably happened like in the history that you've done it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That happened to us when we were working on a Lionsgate film. Like we got up to I don't know, like a 40, and we ended up finishing on like a 31 alt rev or something like that. They're like, oh, these past 9 versions were really just, we went in the wrong direction. So we need to revert back to 31, tweak this graphic, and call it a day. So yeah, that totally happens.
That is great. Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
Did you have a question, Eric?
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's insane to think about, but it helps bring a lot of um, like context to know, just the process that it takes, especially if you're looking to, see, your music featured in a trailer, just the amount of scrutiny, for lack of a better word, that particular, song can go through just to get, to the final, version, the final revision, and before it's released. And I'm curious too, with, because I always see, we always see a lot of different promotional spots, maybe for any one given film. How is that kind of like, I guess, even in speaking into the type of revisions that are needed for just one given spot, how does that translate to, the different spots that could, exist for one movie, like, and how, how do those timelines work out, because I can imagine if you're doing that many revisions and you have, 6 or 7 other spots, you know what I mean? Like, how does that get managed? And I guess, is there a norm as far as like how many spots can be a part of one, particular, movie initiative for marketing?
Right. So that's a good question. The TVs and the 60s and all those things, they don't happen in the marketing timeline at the same time as the trailer. So it's not normally something that crosses ever. They release the trailer probably, on a normal timeline a couple of months before they even think about rolling out TVs. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have a company do the trailer or the teaser, and then they'll make sure to use a different company for the TVs because they want it to feel fresh and they want it to feel different. Sometimes they stick with the same company and they just say, make sure to change it up. And that's when they start licensing more music. Like for Soul, we were doing just the TVs for Soul for Disney. But it's Disney, so they had budget. So we got to place some fresh tracks for them. I think we ended up licensing like 4 just for their TV campaign alone, and that doesn't count their 2 trailers that they licensed music for. So that's a good example of how the campaign will switch up and they'll spend a little bit more money, throw money at it because they don't want people to get bored of the marketing for the film. They want them to get excited again. They want it to feel fresh. They want to target certain audiences, like a TV 30 that's targeted at like specifically like young moms will be, cut a different way, obviously, than the trailer.
Right. And I want to backtrack a little bit to make sure I was following. So, good example with Soul, the part that Ignition played in that was there were I guess the feature trailers that they did, and how many spots did Ignition do for that particular movie? Just for clarification.
I think we finished 5 or 6 TV 30s for Soul, and those are all different, right? There was one that had Christmas music in it. There was one that had Earl St. Clair. There was one that had I think AJR. I'm not totally sure. And they're all just like different spots meant for different markets and meant to target different consumers, basically.
Right. And so, and I'm kind of backtracking as well for the audience, just for context. Like when Ignition is getting that, like their client is Disney and they're asked to do these 5 different spots. You all aren't just making the music or sourcing music, like you all are actually editing that spot as well, like with pictures. You guys are editing picture and accompanying with music. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're basically doing the whole thing over again. Graphics will be done because that's going to carry over from the trailer. They're going to want to keep that the same. Graphics will just have to tweak it with a different date or different copy or whatever. But yeah, so Disney had a little bit more budget. So then you're going to be able to shake up the music. And then, yeah, it gets completely re-edited from the film itself.
Very cool. I love this, Kelsey. Very, 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 very helpful. Just painting this picture again, because our goal with our audience and why we created Control Camp is to try to make it clear and kind of draw back, because again, I know the questions that I had, starting in this space as an independent artist, and just not knowing what all these things are, understanding the type of spots that exist, understanding what an ad agency is and what they actually are responsible for when it comes to any type of marketing or promotion, and how they're using, if they were to ever use my music, how that music can be used and what type of process it goes through. So the way that you're kind of illuminating, this side of it has been really, really helpful. And I want to also ask, with being, I guess, in your time as music supervisor, and then even speaking to your new role with Ignition as director of music, how often are you using independent artists for any number of the spots that you've been responsible for?
I think that depends on your definition of independent. Like, would that be like people that you guys represent, or would that be people who are purely pitching their own stuff?
So since it's broken down like that, let's speak to both angles. As far as a truly independent artist who represents their own catalog, pitches their own music, what does that look like in your world as far as usage?
So, I mean, I have to be honest and say that's difficult for me. It's few and far between. Like, just to give you context, I have 583 pitches currently that I have not reviewed that I intend to. Those are the ones I intend to review. That doesn't even count the ones that I marked as red and I'm not going to touch.
You have
So
583 pitches of music that have been sent to you, like for a particular brief, or just here, check out my music?
Just here, check out my music since I took this job, which is like only been less than 4 months,
Wow.
So that's just giving you an idea, and that's with me putting a dent in it every day. That's just going to give you an idea of like what we're dealing with in terms of like saturation in the market. So there are instances where I open it up, I listen to it, and I put it in one of my library, one of my working playlists, and I will eventually pitch it. Sure, that does happen. I don't know how to quantify that in terms of like percentages, because I'd rather pay like, oh, here's a playlist of our new releases from like a third party, mom and pop independent rep. And then I'll be able to be like, cool, now I have like 10 new songs that are one stop that I can review all at once, versus like opening it up an individual email and going to a link and listening to one song. And that's just purely based on my time limit.
That is so helpful. So let me just reiterate it. So given the choice between receiving music from an individual composer who works for him or herself and is just sending you an email and putting stuff in your box, or somebody who's affiliated with a music house or a sync agency, and then that sync agency has sent you information like, these are our composers, you will probably hear it you will probably receive the stuff from the sync agency and actually listen to it first before you get to the individual stuff that's sent to you.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that's the case, and I don't mean that in like any malevolent way. Just because there's also like, I feel like Jess Grams has also brought this up, that there's like a certain vetting process that happens when somebody that you know is pitching it, because then you know, like, oh, it's licensed, it's on the pros, and it's totally licensable, and there's no hidden sample, and there's nothing that I'm going to need to stress out about. If I had more time, I would review the independent artists, and I do have them in my playlists, and especially when I go to something like Durango and I get those tracks, like they're in there, they're there. It's purely just based off of time management.
That's really, really helpful,
Yeah.
though, and
Yeah.
realistic.
Very good. Yeah. And that, and, and, and it wasn't a, like, there's no need to be a response, because we actually, we talk about that a lot. And even in the PDF resource we have on controlcamp.com, the 7 ways to engage new supervisors, and even the 4 ways to get major placements. We talk about, going direct through music supervisors, but we also, kind of preface that it's probably one of the harder ways to, to have your music placed, because of everything you just explained. You have a volume of people, interested in working with you and sending you music, but it's not as easy as you just, hey, I like this song, let me put it in. You know what I mean? It's you have to cover all of your bases and know that this song is trustworthy. Where this music is coming from is trustworthy, before it ever gets in consideration of, will this, be something usable. And so that's why, again, we talk about one of the secondary ways is, having your music licensed, and represented by an agent. And, a third party is what you were talking about, because they're able to curate something for you, and they've already done the vetting and make your process, a lot easier, and a less stressful. Because again, when you're dealing with as much as you deal with within a day as a director of music, one can only imagine how hard it is just to stop and look through your email to figure out, is this actually the song that I need for the spot I'm working on?
Yeah, exactly. Especially, like, I will say that sometimes we have to do music searches out into the world. Like, basically, I'll email all of the reps I know that have one stops that I know can work within a budget that I'm working with, and I'll give them a hyper specific brief, and they'll send me what they have. So that's an instance in where truly independent artists are getting left out of that conversation, because their stuff isn't going to be sent by the people that I reach out to asking for their best stuff, So that is an example of that. A lot of supervisors depend on that. When you're at your rope's end and it's like 12 o'clock at night and you are out of music, you reach out to your people that have a roster, and you tell them exactly what you need and be like, please send me something I haven't heard yet, basically.
Yeah. It makes sense. The stress is real. I can imagine. I feel stressed thinking, like,
It's
listening to you talk about it.
it's really cool though,
Yeah.
and it's so helpful. I mean, just to us, to people in the room, because to hear, or this is why we have this, like, to hear someone who does the job day to day, who's open and honest about, this is the process that I do to get music, then you're not just following some wish list or generic steps of, oh, this is how I get my music placed. You're actually hearing how the process actually works, and then people can make informed decisions on, okay, well, do I pitch music? Do I align myself with these companies? Do I do something differently? Like, when you have the more accurate information, you can make more informed decisions. So I really appreciate you
Yes,
sharing that.
yes, exactly. Yeah, because I know that nobody knows like what goes into all of this unless they're in it themselves, and I think it's a lot more intense than people
Yeah.
realize. It's not so much as like opening an email and being like, this track is banging, I'm gonna put it in a trailer right this second. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, so I want to shift gears a little bit before we reach the top of the hour. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work with the Guild of Music Supervisors?
Oh yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. Cool. Yeah, I reached out to the guild and basically told them I wanted to start a DEI committee, a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee because they didn't have anything like that. And as the like representative body of music supervisors, I thought it was pretty important for them to have, and they were super stoked about it. And they were like, "Sure, do it." And so yeah, I've been doing that since I think like last April, basically. And obviously, because of COVID, everything's been online, but we've done some really cool panels. We've done, allyship and music supervision and Black music supervisors and Black professionals in sync licensing, Latinx supervisors in sync licensing, and basically just trying to highlight those types of professionals as well as have those conversations about DEI and music supervision because it is something that needs to be talked about. It is like if there is um, a movie that's set in Guadalajara, the music needs to be authentic. And how do we make that happen? And does the supervisor who does that movie need to be from Guadalajara? And let's talk about that. Let's have these awkward conversations. It's basically what the point of the committee is.
That's awesome. And so, like, what has the response been so far? Since you've been kind of curating these conversations, like, what has the response been? Has there been any developments that you've seen that have come out of it and changes that you've been kind of looking forward to see? Based off of kind of what's been started, with the guild.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that it's bringing these conversations up. I think it's making a lot of people look in the mirror and think, oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, is that appropriation or things like that? These conversations that I think like a fish doesn't know he's in water, right? It's kind of that same thing until somebody is like, "You're in water, man." They're not going to know that they're in water, and then it lets people think about these things, and just to be able to even think critically about our profession and how any sphere of influence we have as supervisors can affect the entertainment industry at large, which is overwhelmingly cis hetero white male. I think any conversation that's talking about that is super important. Honestly, it's kind of a thankless job. Most of the reactions I've gotten have been like, well, why didn't you do this? Or why isn't this person on your panel? Or X, Y, and Z. Most people want, the moon and the stars. And we're really just trying to do the best we can with what we have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate you, taking the initiative to kind of see the need, step into the space, speaking to it, and really, activate those conversations because it is one of those things. I think we all kind of have our own biases, ignorances that we're unaware of, and it is healthy and helpful, at large, for the country and even within, as it trickles down into more niches like what we do, to figure out like how can we balance the scales, how can we make this a even playing field for everybody to have a fighting chance and just turn the corner a bit. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. That was something we talked about in one of our panels too. It was like one of the attendees had a question like, well, do you think it's a bad thing that people are sending out music briefs specifically looking for Black artists? And the answer overwhelmingly by the Black panel was no, of course not. Thank you for that opportunity. We want that. It's and so these are just like discussions that we need to have.
Right.
And thankfully the events of the past year have forced people to think and talk about them when they didn't have to before.
Yeah, this year, or excuse me, last year was probably a very unique year. I feel like. I mean, conversations have been going on for a while, but for some reason, 2020, it just seemed like it amplified everything. So yeah, I definitely agree. With that sentiment. All right, so we're getting really close to our top of the hour. Kelsey, you've been beyond generous just with your time and information. Like I wanted to get into some fun questions. So
Okay.
I thought of these just kind of on a whim. Who is your celebrity lookalike? What celebrity you get compared to the most?
Cecily Strong.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I guess that like if it wasn't like COVID, I would get Cecily like every day I'm out and about in public.
Yo, do
It's
you ever just
yeah.
like troll people and just like play along?
I had a friend of mine actually photoshopped my face onto her body and like put the picture online, and everyone thought it was Cecily Strong.
That is
Yo,
great.
that's so funny. Okay, that is very accurate. Mine's is I get Will Smith a lot. So
Hey, that's a
I don't
good
know.
one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. I always say I wish I had Will Smith money, but I take the looks, I guess. All right, I got another question. I got another question for you. What is
Okay.
one thing we don't know about you that we should? Because I stalked your IG and I'm seeing camera tattoos, I'm seeing kickboxing, I'm seeing leather jackets. Like, what don't we know about you that we should?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that people should know anything, but yeah, I do Muay Thai, and it's the best. And I encourage any and all women to, or non-binary folk, to do Muay Thai. It's badass, and it also is good for defending yourself in dark alleys and close combat. Do Muay Thai.
That is awesome. How
Muay
long have
Thai.
you been doing that?
6 years. 6 years about, yeah.
Wow, that's
Oh,
awesome.
so you like Muay Thai more like you in it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I like
Jeez.
when Corona hit and I couldn't go to my fight gym, I bought a heavy bag, and I have a heavy bag in my garage, so I could
I
beat
I
the shit
saw
out of that
that.
whenever I want.
Yeah, you was going in. I saw that. Okay,
It's
all right.
great. Highly recommend.
All right, last question I got for you. What's been your favorite music supervision project?
Oh, hmm. I mean, I always harken back to there is this uh, movie called On the Basis of Sex. I don't know if anybody saw it. More people should. It's really good. By
I've heard
Focus
of it. Yeah.
Features. Yeah, it's like a fictionalized version of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life. With like Army Hammer. Sucks that he sucks now, but he was good in this movie. And the movie is excellent. It's basically just like how she became who she was, and how she basically started the you know gender, like how like gender discrimination is illegal. Basically, how she made that happen, which is it's super interesting. And we got to do the trailer for that, and Focus was cool. Like they had money, but they didn't care about having a recognizable artist. We ended up using like two extremely small, not signed to major labels, artists in the main trailer, along with the Joss Stone cue, and then two more in the TV campaign. So I was like super proud of doing that, placing four female, small, individual artists in a major studio campaign in one campaign. That's just something that made me very happy.
I love it. I'm smiling listening to you say that. Like I could just
Yeah,
imagine how rewarding that must have been. That's dope. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Melcy, I'm so glad you were here. It's an honor to have you, and you just been, like I said, it's beyond generous with sharing. And I know if all of the audience members could clap and talk and applaud, we would, be, up out of our seats right now, just in appreciation. But
Oh, no, this is awesome. Thanks for doing this.
absolutely, absolutely. Eric, do you want to, I guess, do another room reset and kind of get us transition over to our Q&As?
Sure, let's do it. All right. Wow, that's been a great talk, Kelsey. Thanks so much. Just I already said, just the openness, just revealing the actual processes that supervisors go through, especially in your industry specific, just so that musicians, composers, etc., have the right information to know how to plan our own career. So we really just appreciate you being just as revealing and open and just giving us so much insight. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so, for everyone who's been here, if you haven't been here for the last hour, we are Control Camp. We meet here every Wednesday. We are a community built for independent artists we're trying to get their music in television and film. And so every week we're bringing you discussions, we're bringing you access to the people who actually make the decisions in terms of what music lands on that commercial or in that television show or on that promo. We're also providing information just so that you can learn the lingo. We all learn how the industry works. I'm Eric, co-host Daraj. We're here each week. We are both experienced songwriters, artists, composers who write music for sync and have a good number of sync placements between the two of us. And so we come here not with all the answers, but we come here to kind of leverage our community, pull other composers and songwriters. So we bring what we know, they bring what they know, and we all kind of learn together. We're about to shift into our Q&A section. So we will bring some of the other supervisors who are on the floor, bring them up to join the panel. And then as you're getting ready for questions, you may have heard me say this earlier, there's a couple of things that we've been doing. We do this each week. We're providing information each week, and we're trying to move the conversation along. And so from the feedback you've all been giving us, you guys really like how these rooms are organized. Every week someone says, we love how this room is moderated. It's my favorite room on Clubhouse. And we take all this feedback to heart. So we're really trying to keep this conversations moving quickly. The things that we're doing, if you come up with questions, we ask everybody to ask just one question. And then after you ask your question, we're going to move you back to the audience while your question is answered. If someone else needs a follow-up, we'll pull you back. And as I said earlier, now we're trying to move the conversations forward, and we've got lots of information on controlcamp.com now. So we're going to start. If you ask questions of things that have been covered in the previous rooms, like if you're asking, how do I get in touch with you? Or if you ask, what kind of music do I need to make to get into this type of forum? I'm just going to direct you to our website, to the Sync resources page, Sync 101. There's two ways you can do. You can either download or purchase our PDFs. They're really cheap. They're like $3 each, but you can get what are the main song themes to write? What are the 4 steps to actually getting music placed? What's the proper way to reach out to sync advisors? All that's on the website. We've actually made detailed ebooks based on these interviews. The other way to get engaged is to join our Patreon. That gets you access to all of those resources included, but it also gets you access to every resource that's going to be coming. We're creating a dictionary of sync terms. We're creating a metadata guide to tell you how to actually enter metadata into your songs and all the different terms that are standard that you can use, as well as access to these conversations, like last week's conversation with Jessica Muglia to talk about how to get access to songs placed on brands like Vogue and Vanity Fair, etc. And so all those things, if you've missed these conversations, we record these, we make detailed notes on all of these. And so Patreon members get access to replays, recordings, and the notes. So take a look at that. So with that said, as we do questions, we're going to be moving people forward, and we're looking for people to ask questions from this point in the conversations forward, either about what Kelsey's brought on today, or just more intermediate or advanced questions about your catalog specific and how you want to position it. With that said, welcome to the stage. We have Steph and John and Mariella and Rosie and Jess and Jaden, Mike, Zozen is there for questions. I'm going to hold on for the questions first. But up through Mike, thank you all for joining us. As always, it's a pleasure to have you all up here. Okay. Anything, Daraj, before we move into the first questions?
No, I think we're ready to go. Hand raising has been turned on. So if you got any questions, just go ahead and raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage.
Okay, so let me PTR, and looks like we'll be starting with Zozen.
How you doing? Appreciate you for having this forum again. Thank you.
Our pleasure, man. How's it going?
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's good. So I got in the conversation a little late. Like I just got on, so I see a lot of the things you said were um, based on your website that you can get a lot of information there. Just adding to that kind of a question, is there a way, if there's, how would us as creators and people who have content know like what shows or what things are going to be releasing, and what is probably the best time to connect with people when they're in the creation process? Is it like when they're really in post-production? Like, are they when they're finished? Or when we hear about a show, do we like start looking at, you know, like the show, and how does that process work? Do we hit them up and when the show is completed, and how, like, what process of it is the best time for music supervisors for y'all particularly, and to reach out to y'all in the show creation and the show completion process to get the song placed?
Okay, let me answer two things. The first thing, well, your second part was about actually reaching out, but your first question was knowing what is appropriate or what's necessary or what they need. That was your first point, right? How
Yeah,
do you
just
know?
based on, yeah, exactly, kind of like based on what they need and like kind of the timeline in
Oh yeah,
terms of
because you were asking
the
about
show
sites.
timeline.
Okay,
Yeah.
so so first point, I will say we refer people to sites like tunefind.com, which is a great site for just studying music, studying what music is used, studying what has been in shows. You can find a full repository of lots of television shows. Not really so much there for ads, other than studying ads themselves and just seeing the music. But TuneFind is great for TV. Trailers and ads. Somebody may have mentioned the trailer site, but I really, other than just kind of going on YouTube and watching trailers and watching ads, is probably the best way to find. Also on our site, especially for trailers, since that's what Kelsey's here for. On our site, we do have playlists. There's actually a playlist that Jessica Ruwadi created just for trailers, music that has been used in trailers. So if you want to study this music that has been used, on our Sync 101 page, this is a free resource. We have 3 Spotify playlists that have been curated. And one is trailers, the other is Christmas music, and the other is just sync music in general. But you can go there and you can study music that has been used. For the second question about how to approach, I am going to refer you back to the Sync 101 page. We did a whole talk on how to approach, what's the right time to hit people up, when to hit people up. So go to the Sync 101 page and check out our 7 steps for engaging with music supervisors. That will answer that question. Okay, Messieurs. Quentin.
Hey, Quentin. Yeah. Thanks, guys. As always, appreciate the platform. I had a question for Kelsey, and I've been on since the beginning, but I've been moving around and I got dropped off a couple of times, so I don't know if you spoke about this, but I heard you mention, as a music supervisor role, you're kind of listening critically when you're listening to music. I want to know, is there do you have like a in your memory of a favorite project that was more fun to work on, or do you have those projects that you really love the music, or you get into on a different level than just, I guess, listening so critical as a music supervisor?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does suck. It's hard to separate. It's hard when I listen to music for leisure. I listen to vinyl only because I don't want to have to even think about like choosing things on Spotify. It just feels like work. But I like when there is sometimes clients who are like, we just want something unique and new, and that sounds like it hasn't been done before. And then you're like, cool. And you get to just like pitch whatever you think would work, basically, when they don't give you the parameters and they think, give us what you got. Those are the most fun to work on. And sometimes that happens. Some clients are cool like that, but a lot aren't.
Awesome. 2.0. You're on the stage. How you doing? What's your question?
Hello. Sorry, I was sliding in DMs. But yes. Yeah, the moderators. I'm figuring this Clubhouse thing out. Um, but hello, I'm 2.0. I'm an artist from Atlanta, Georgia, producer and sound engineer as well. And my question is, and just to kind of describe what my music sound like, I'm kind of, I guess you can call me a gospel rapper, but it's somewhere between like an Outkast, a Kurt Franklin, and a J. Cole. So if you can imagine that, that'll give you context for the question I'm about to ask. All right, so as a creative that's not only a songwriter, artist, and a producer as well, um, would it be in my, as far as trying to shop or try to get placements and break into the sync game or sync licensing game, is it better for me to build up a catalog of whether it be beats or songs, or should I just try to get like one song that I feel like is like dope and just push it until, and then let that one kind of be my calling card, and then once that one breaks, then try to meet the demand, or if I get popular enough, then do it case by case. So is it like get bulk, like just do a whole bunch of stuff and just try to shop everything, or is it like try to be specific and tailor make things to the situation?
I got you. I got your question. Yeah. I Short answer is definitely catalog and kind of know what musicians are looking for, what supervisors are looking for. Build a catalog around that type. The long answer is, and we're not selling. I'm not repeating this for sales, but I am trying to keep things moving. So if I refer back to the website, it's only because I think the critical information is there. And so there's a guide there called 4 Steps to Get into Sync, which talks about building that catalog and taking, how to approach that first song and then how to repeat it. So check that out. It's called 4 Ways to Get Major Music Placements for TV and Film. And that's the process. You follow those steps. That's how the whole plan works. So if you're just starting with it, I encourage you to check that out.
You guys are awesome. You guys made like a college course. It's so cool.
Thank you. We're trying to just do like we keep adding to it. Like we have a real big vision for this. Like I think when we started with Clubhouse, we both went to a lot of different rooms, and we really do like the talking and engaging, but we wanted this room to be one where we all were growing in knowledge. And so I like writing, and we work well because Daraj is like brand master, like the whole look and feel of everything he comes up with. And so we're just going to make this a repository of education and just kind of keep the whole community growing.
That's great. I love it.
Can I chime in really quick with that trailer resource that I think you were maybe mentioning?
Oh yeah, please.
Trying to think of. I think it was maybe the moviebox.net that you were thinking of. I'm not positive, but that is a good website that basically like collects trailers and featurettes and etc. From all over. I mean, like I look at it all the time just to like know what's going on in the industry.
Say it one more time. Spell it.
Yeah, it's the moviebox.net. Like the movie box.
Awesome. We'll have that. All one word. Yeah, we'll have that in our notes for everybody. That's great.
Yeah.
There's also that the Twitter page that the Trailer Beat Twitter page. They will list the agency that does each trailer. But with those types of things, also it's like you got to take it like, oh, it's a comedy trailer. Maybe they do a lot of comedy, sure, but like that trailer's already done, right? So you don't want to pick something that would have been appropriate for that trailer. That's the hard thing about ads and trailers. Like we don't have an IMDb or some kind of aggregate. Like if you find half of my finishes, I would love to have them because I don't know where half of my stuff is, honestly. It's more just like try and grasp general trends in trailer and advertising and work towards those.
Once we find it, we're going to put it on controlcamp.com.
All right. Randy J, you're next.
Yo, what's up, y'all? I got into this real late, but I'm just trying to ask a question real quick. I've been submitting my beats through solicitations on Song Trader. And I was thinking, is that still a good approach to do, or I should just do another approach?
That's a good question. Let's let some different supervisors. Anybody use SongTrade or have any thoughts on it?
I go directly to the people at SongTrader, just because I like working with real humans, and I tend to be too busy to sift through websites on my own. So I'd rather send a brief to my contact at SongTrader, and she'll just send me options based on the brief I send.
So she's pulling from
Literally
the
same.
SongTrader catalog, but as opposed to you doing the search, they're sending it to you directly.
Correct. Yeah, just like they have a searchable website, but I'm always moving too fast, and I rarely go out to one person. So unless we had some kind of a rate card in place where I didn't really need human interaction for the clearance side of things. But really, I send a brief out to licensing contacts and have them send music because they know their catalog much better than I do.
Now, does SongTrader get around? I have music on SongTrader, but I'm interested in how you all perceive it. Does it get around some of your issues with one, having preset rates, and two, having one-stop music? Does their process that they do to screen music and prepare music, do you consider that a thorough process that gives you more ease with dealing with them?
You mean that like SongTrader specifically, or
Well, SongTraders, yeah,
or
SongTraders specifically because they have, you can choose to go with they already have predefined rates for things, and they've already, you have to clear your songs or, with all your writers in order to have it approved on the site.
yeah, I mean, I would consider them a legitimate company. I mean, I go to them for briefs, so that should let you all know that their business is tied up, as you hear me say a lot every week. um, but yeah, I mean, I trust them with their vetting process.
Very nice. That's very nice to hear. Okay, Shelby, you're next.
Hi, my name is Shelby, and I'm a music business student aspiring to be a music supervisor. So my question is what advice would you give someone like me wanting to get into this field?
It depends on what type of music supervisor you want to be. I think you don't have to decide for the rest of your life what type of supervisor you want to be, but maybe hone in on one field, whether it be TV, ads, trailers, or film. And I think each process is going to be slightly different, but a lot of times you just have to get in at the lowest level and find a supervisor that's willing to be your mentor and willing to kind of show you the ropes as their music assistant or music coordinator.
Awesome. Great answer. Smoking Aces. And welcome to Clubhouse. I see you're new. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you all for having me up here. Yeah, I'm brand new. Just started yesterday. So just sort of getting used to everything right now. Am I coming in clear?
Oh yeah, perfectly.
Okay.
You got a question?
Yes, but yeah, absolutely brand new to this. So I saw the room and I definitely had to come in and try to get some knowledge that I could. I do have a question. I'm a producer and composer, mainly doing a lot of sort of instrumental hip hop, G-funk type beats, things like that. And obviously continuing to try to just elevate my skills and learn new, different genres and everything. But asking everyone up here, when it comes to sort of submitting music, should I hone in more on what I do now, or should I sort of go out more for trying to figure out what the sounds are that are mainly used in, say, sync for commercials and things like that, and sort of just transition more towards that? I don't know if I'm being clear. I hope so.
Well, you're going to know what you do best, right? So I would say do you and do it the best you can. If you are, have another type of genre that you do think that you could do really well that is very syncable but doesn't align with your brand, just release it under a different name or sell it to a library or give it the rights to a publisher under a different name so that it doesn't like change your vibe with your actual passion project is what I would do.
Great.
Yeah, I would.
Go
Yeah, I would
ahead.
second that. I'm actually notorious for that. Where I have like probably four different artist aliases that I do music under, but they all kind
That's
of
the way to
curate.
do it. I mean, Ruel, that girl has like 10 projects and they all get licensed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it fits because I'm like, jack of all trades, creative, and I'm just, I'm always inspired. But I noticed that, certain sounds just don't work for certain brands, or I just don't want to, do too much commingling with one brand. So I'll just segment them and create a brand around them, and it's very satisfying and rewarding. So I highly encourage that.
That is great. Hey, Dadrian, what's going on?
Doing all right. How you guys doing? So,
Good, man.
so earlier, Kelsey talked about, I guess the music that's, like that's being made that I find myself in a realm that's like, it's some like the type of music that you like. It's different. You never really heard before, and it's not like me trying to, um, talk myself up. It's just that I have a real struggle with like connecting with or like having a stamp for my music, like, oh, this is like like a certain genre and you can throw it in a category or whatever. Is there like a specific, and this is like a referral, I guess, but like, is there a specific agency that specializes in that type of music? Because I'm definitely not trying to wait in that line of 500 people. And, especially with music that's not like tailor made to something, it probably would make it even worse. So is there like a specific couple agencies or anything that take on those things?
Right, I hear you. That's a good question. A lot of them will have like those like out of the box and quirky and what I use often as like a comp when I'm talking about those types are is like Sorry to Bother You and Silicon Valley, and those are kind of the things that kind of turned what people thought could traditionally be music supervision tracks on their heads and being like, no, this works too, even though there's like literally two instruments and it sounds insane. Those are my comps. And when I want something like that, I mean, I think Greater Goods has a lot of that stuff. He would probably be somebody that I would go to for a search. Zinc, Cobalt, those majors have that market pretty well cornered, I would say. I don't know if any of the other supervisors have anything to contribute to that.
Cool. That's a great answer, though. Awesome. Very helpful.
And I Can
Go
I
ahead.
chime in real quick too? I think it would be also, a good, I guess, a homework assignment, for lack of a better word. In addition to, your normal sound that you curate, that, feels more truer to the, your artist brand and it's kind of what you naturally produce, also, doing the research to see if there are any other sounds in the sync space that interest you and feel like it's something that, you could actually execute on, and is, marketable as well, and just kind of, playing in both, I guess, playgrounds, if you will, just to, maybe, but, open up your options for, increase your odds to get synced, you know what I mean? So, because again, like, there are kind of things that are typically used, I guess you can say, in sync, but everything has room to be synced. At the end of the day, it just seems like there are certain things that get synced more than others, but that doesn't mean that anything you're producing, that's true to you won't have a chance. But I always like to kind of, diversify and, have something that, might be a little left, but also see if I can fit into something that is working just to, give myself more options. And if I'm trying to make a career out of it. So.
Great insight. Great insight. All right, Big Shot, got you next.
Hey, how's it going? So my question is it common practice that, because I've been trying to get in the door for a little while now when it comes to syncs and music licensing, that you get a reply back that, okay, the music that you submitted to them wasn't a good fit, and then you go to reply to them to find out, okay, so what is it that you could submit that may be a good fit, but you don't get any reply? Is that common practice, and what would be the best approach to kind of follow up with that since you got a reply?
Well, a couple things. One, it may be a common practice. I think it's more just a reflection of people being very busy. And a lot of times, if you have if you've already done the work up front and have what they're looking for, then if it's even, well, Kelsey even said earlier that you could have what they could use, but you could be buried in the midst of something so big that they may not even have time to actually get into it because it didn't come through some of their already pre-approved sources. So that's one.
Right. And like when something is like good enough that I know I will want to pitch it in the future, I don't like put it into a playlist and then reply to the person and be like, guess what? I just put that in a playlist. It's, I just move on with my day.
That is great. Very insightful, though. But also, just so you know, Big Shot, depending when you came in, we do have, just for more details on that answer, check out our 7 ways to engage a music supervisor on the controlcant.com site. We go into the whole process of how to engage people, what to expect, how to deal with follow-up and feedback and all that. So check that out. Abby, I think I got you next.
Hey guys, thank you so much for doing this. Eric and Daraj, thanks for moderating, and Kelsey, thanks for being here. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, producer, songwriter. I've had several placements, but I recently just signed with an administration deal with a publishing company. And I wanted to know if, Kelsey, if you prefer introductions from artists separately from the production or from the publishing company. If an artist meets you ahead of time and just wants to introduce themselves, and then the administration from the publishing company happens later.
I mean, it would be cool if there's to be an intro to have that publisher like CC'd, and so I know like who to look for if I need a contact. Basically, what publisher is it?
It's Penn Music.
What was it?
PEN, Penn Music.
PEN, Penn. Okay. I don't actually. I've never worked with them before, but I'm happy to look at their roster. But yeah, I mean, I like to put it all on one email. Might as well like all know who's adminning it and know who to reach out to and have our stuff covered. Basically.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Abby. Although I would just also note that for everybody in the room, just what I'm taking from Kelsey's response also is that you could be with a publisher, you could be with an agent, you could be with a music house, but what's important is are you with somebody that has a relationship with the people that you want to do business with? Because even if you're with somebody that may have a name or reputation, if the actual soups, if that's not one of the people that Kelsey is reaching out to and sending, when she's in midnight and looking for that one song, if they're not on the list of 10 people that she's reaching out to, or 50, whatever, how many people it is, then it's still almost the same as just being an independent artist stuck in the email. Would you say that's probably true, Kelsey?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Though, like I said earlier, like if that admin publisher is like, well, here is a sampler of the 10 artists I have, I'm probably more inclined to do that because I can quickly sample 10 artists than like just the one,
Gotcha. That's great. That's really, really helpful. Okay. Autumn, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm an independent artist from Australia, and I just had a question around music libraries. it kind of seems like it's really hard for artists to, I guess, like the process isn't very straightforward in terms of trying to, get on the roster. So I'm just wondering, I guess, any advice on the best way to approach that? Because I've just noticed that some websites will have, how to submit, but a lot of them, look, from what I've seen, they don't really say, and it's almost like you have to contact the like the main contact, but then I'm almost stuck on like, well, what if I approach this wrong? Is there like another way of trying to get in with a music library, if that makes sense?
Are you talking about the process for getting with libraries?
You know, I think if
Okay.
you went about it, there's a few things to think about, and that is a great question. I think if you think about it from like your level of confidence against the level of risk with whoever you're potentially reaching out to, making that judgment call every time will give you the best path forward of who you should reach out to. So the reason that I think you asked about like not wanting to blow your one shot of getting in touch with somebody that might be the head A&R of a library. So I think what you could do is look at the roster of who's already on there, bunch of artists, try to find one that's in your genre, reach out to like 6 or 7 of those, and just like slowly check, like do a kind of a vibe check with them. Send them a couple songs and be like, hey, do you have any advice for how I could approach entering, joining on with this library? And if they become your advocate, if they like what you're about, if, even if you start working with them, then you have a direct in. So now you're not cold calling, head A&R of X, Y, or Z library. The artists themselves that you would tap in with could make that connection for you, make the introduction. And now it's not a cold introduction, it's a warm introduction. That's a pretty good way. But if you are really confident and you feel like you've gotten good feedback from your circles, then, shoot your shot, go straight for it, and, lead with your best foot forward.
Nice advice, Ryan. Yeah, I at least half of the libraries that I work with came because I'm collaborating with somebody who was already in the library. So reaching out to them and reaching out to some of the artists is definitely a good way to get connected. Okay, David, you're up next. Oh, yeah, David, we'll do you, and then we're gonna do a reset.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. Thanks. I've really enjoyed what you've been saying. I'm a composer, and I'm trying to understand the process and how I can best fit in with my writing talents. So let me make sure I got this straight. First, you seek submissions from trusted rep agencies and trailer houses, and then when you find a track that you think will work, and you choose to work with this house, you go back and forth with them to create something that fits the client's needs, and you have numerous revisions, right?
Right. That's in the instance of customizing an existing piece of music. Yes.
Okay. So with these, is this a trailer house?
Like the music.
What would you call one of these?
Music houses is what I call them. Like I think Duraj should actually use himself as an example for this. He has a trailerized track as well as like the regular version of that track, right? And a music house, he joined on with a music house ghostwriter to trailerize one of his tracks. So Ghostwriter is a music house that specifically serves trailer houses in this kind of capacity. They have already composed music that I get from them for when we do trailers that aren't with commercial tracks, but are instead orchestral. We call that production music. And then sometimes they pre-trailerize things like they did with Duraj's track. And yeah, so that's an example of a music house, ghostwriter music, if that makes sense.
That was great. That was a great answer. Okay, before we go into the next person, let's do a quick reset. If you're just joining us, this is Control Camp. We are a community of independent artists that are all learning and growing in the sync licensing space. So that involves writing music for television, ads, trailers, films, etc., video games. So I'm Eric. I'm one of your co-hosts. We also have Daraj, who is co-host, and we are both experienced in the sync licensing space. We both have numerous placements on either TV or video games or trailers, etc. And so we're coming to the last quarter of this 2-hour room where we've started out interviewing Kelsey Mitchell, who is the director of music at Ignition, and they primarily focus on trailers, which is what we've been talking about a lot. So we've been just discussing the types of music, where she gets music from. We've been had a great discussion around that, and now we're in our Q&A portion. We're going to wrap up here at around 10 o'clock for the moderated part. And then we will transition into the after party for all who want to come, or for all members who want to come. It's open to Clubhouse members. If you're not a member of Clubhouse and you want to join, all you have to do is click on my profile or Daraj's profile, and the club is the very first club listed at the bottom. So just click on that and press follow, and we'll get you joined up. But the after party, we started it last week, and it was awesome. We got to really know a lot of our members. It's a less moderated space, but it's still very cool. And we all shared a lot, got to know each other, and it's really cool. I felt like we came together as a club really nicely last week. So we're gonna keep that going each Wednesday. We also launched Saturday our listening session, so that will continue again this Saturday. You can go to our website, controlkent.com, to submit one song that you want to be considered for our listening sessions on Saturday. And then while you're on controlcamp.com, check out our Sync 101 page. If you've noticed, I've referred back to that a lot, because every time we do a room, we take notes from that room, or we put together a resource based on the information that comes out, and we've been putting all those resources there. So how to engage music supervisors. A few people have had that question, but there's a great resource, because we get that question every week. So we put together a great guide for how to engage music supervisors on the site. There's what songs are the best to write, what are the best song themes to use when you're writing a song, what are the 4 steps you need to do to get placements or get in the process of getting placements this year. All that's up there. And you can get those individually for sale. It's, it's real small, it's like $3. But you can also join our Patreon, which gets you access to all those. It gets you access to the recordings of all of these rooms. So if you've missed any of our previous ones, or you're going to miss next week, so some of the ones coming up, you'll always be able to get the replays. You'll get the PDF of the notes, and you'll get all the resources that are coming, the dictionary of sync terms, the guide to using metadata, all the things that we're throwing out. It's going to be pretty awesome, as well as access to briefs and access to premium rooms. We got a whole bunch of stuff planned. So grow with us, stick with us, and we're just glad that you're here. So Daraj, anything before we continue?
No, man, that was perfect.
All right, so we're on, and I appreciate everybody who's coming up. You've been asking one question. You guys have been keeping it brief. We really, really appreciate that, because these last couple of weeks we've been getting so many more people's questions answered each week, and we're really thankful that you're helping us do that. I'm going to try your name, Attic. Atik.
I'm the music coordinator. Hey, Jess.
Oh, hey.
No, Jess. I'm the music coordinator at NFL Media, NFL Network.
Oh, well, welcome to the stage. Glad to have you.
What's going on?
Welcome to the stage. We're glad to have you here.
Yeah, we'll make you a moderator.
All right. Well, as being made a moderator, we will bring Billy. I got you next. Billy? Did I say that right? Billy Van?
Yep. Hi.
How you doing?
What's up? Sorry, could you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, awesome. I'm sorry, this is my first time ever speaking in Clubhouse. I appreciate this room. You guys are awesome. You guys gave really, really dope information. I'll definitely check out Patreon and the Control Camp website. Just like a few minutes ago, you guys were like, it kind of seemed like almost like kind of a bad way to say it, but like almost cold calling a music supervisor to get on the radar kind of almost seems like a bad idea. I think that's what I gathered. If you could just clarify, because if the best way to get into music sync licensing is signing up with the agency, would you recommend anybody or anything or any avenues to go through? And I apologize if this is a redundant question, but that's my question.
It's okay. Welcome to Clubhouse. Welcome to the camp. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you.
It's the part that we have already addressed. I'll tell you at the end. Kelsey did mention some agencies earlier, but that was kind of for like for quirky, but they're just some of the bigger ones in general. So she mentioned Greater Good, she mentioned Zinc, and she mentioned Cobalt. But there are numerous sync agencies out there. So as well as music houses, and so that's something that we kind of encourage you to research. But we might help with that with putting a guide. Every time I hear a question come up a lot, I always think, okay, that's a good guide that we can kind of create. So that'll be on our radar for something to do as well. But in the meanwhile, just to say, we do have the guide for music supervisors on the site. So everything you need to know about how to approach a music supervisor is on the Sync 101 page on controlcamp.com. It answers every question you could possibly have. So check that out.
Yeah, you could even look up like the publishers for some songs that you feel like are comparable to yours using the ASCAP or BMI repertoire and approach those people, because it'll list who's publishing who on those websites.
It's a good idea. So you're saying if you are a hip hop artist and you are, you feel like, okay, my sound is parties, maybe similar to Black Eyed Peas or something. Think about, or somebody more different or whatever. Think about references to who you sound like, are you saying? And then find out who represents them as a publisher, who represents them for sync.
Yeah, well, because those repertoires will have publishers, that's publicly available information. The label, you have to do more digging and who actually like represents them with the third party, that's different. But I think it's like a good place to start. Maybe not somebody like the Black Eyed Peas, because I think they're just like BMI or BMG. But maybe something that you feel like is a bit smaller than that and is comparable to you, and you can see who's repping them. That might be a place to start. There's just so many publishers and so many third party reps. It's just going to take a lot of research to kind of find what would be a good fit for you and a place that feels likewise.
While we're on that, it's a question for the floor. If you decide that again, sync agencies are one approach. There is the direct, which we're talking about, but then there's also music libraries, and so. But if you're going to decide that, okay, I want to try to approach a sync agency, with what you were just saying about like referencing in songs. So a lot of these agents will list their catalog or who the artists are on their site. Would you recommend finding someone that has many artists similar to you, or finding someone that's totally different because maybe then you're like what they're missing? Anybody have any thoughts on that as far as approach?
Are you speaking to the moderators?
Oh yeah, sorry for the room. Anybody if you were to advise an artist on what sync agents to approach, do you approach agencies with artists that are similar to you, or do you look for those where you will like stand out and be like the different artist?
I can.
I'm always. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead, Jaden.
I can kind of jump in on this, and there isn't. I don't know that I can speak for all sync agencies by any means, but it is kind of that thing of like, if you're really looking at a roster, it's very clear that some agencies are very niche and specific in what they do. So if you're like way out in left field from that, then yeah, maybe don't reach out if it's very, very clear that it's niche. If you see a sync agency that has a lot of artists that are similar to you, sometimes, yes, maybe they want more because they're leaning into that being one of their like selling points when they're speaking to supervisors of like, this is the genre we're really strong in. So you can go down that route and approach those sync agencies and say, hey, I make this music. It's kind of in line with these artists, and see what kind of response you get. It really just varies on the company. And at the end of the day, I would just like say, do your research and use your gut. Like, if they're, it really just comes down to that. And I can speak like for myself as a sync agent or working in the sync space for a while now. I want to curate a roster of artists where our roster is known maybe for like three things specifically, three genres maybe, or three skill sets that we have. And as I'm curating and I'm A&Ring artists, I want to make sure that one genre doesn't become so heavy that my artists who I care about, who I'm putting in front of these supervisors and speaking about, I don't want the pool to become too diluted. So speaking for me personally, I'm always looking at how can I like really round out a catalog as best as possible, and kind of fill in all of the gaps while not diluting the integrity of the artist that I'm currently representing. I don't know if that helps at all. Again, it's different. And at the end of the day, I think you just have to kind of use your gut.
Great answer. Mike, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off that last point. I tend to look to fill the gaps. I have a fairly eclectic roster, but the structure of my company's, I think, a little different. I'm not signing artists individually. I mean, I do sign artists individually, but the majority of our catalog is comprised of foreign label publishers that I rep for the US. And so I'm sort of at the behest of their signings and what they're pushing through to me. And so a lot of the times, there are genres or sounds that I'm missing, and I am seeking out, those artists and sounds to fill in those gaps so that I can submit on as many briefs as possible. And that's not to say to submit 10 tracks per brief, but to at least have one or two or three really quality tracks from that specific genre that I might be missing. So yeah, but Jaden, answered that beautifully. So
Thank you, Jaden and Mike. Thank you both. All right, let's continue. DJ Cyclone, I got you next.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Will, but I go by DJ Cyclone, and I'm CEO of Grounded Records out of Columbia, South Carolina. Y'all basically just hit around the question that I had. I usually come into rooms like this and ask questions for the artists that are in the room. I was going to ask, though, being that y'all were talking about the syncing agencies, how you all felt about Taxi, if you know of Taxi, and Broad Jam, in terms of artists who may not be able to contact y'all or doesn't know anything about getting on Clubhouse, or just want to get into the publishing side of things.
I can speak. I'm not familiar with Broad Jam. I've never worked with them, but I have been a member. I still am a member of Taxi, and they are actually the. So I speak positively of them. They're actually the organization that introduced me to many of the libraries that I ended up working with and were responsible for some of my first placements, either directly through submitting to Taxi or because I met a composer at like the Taxi conference. And Taxi, for anybody who doesn't know, is an A&R organization based in LA that presents kind of like they present briefs. So they are like a middle ground between supervisors who are looking and a community of songwriters who are looking to get associated. Mostly there are direct things that you can do through music supervisors through them, but many of their relationships are with libraries. So that's that is how I got associated with a lot of the libraries. So they were very good. They've been very good for me. It's a great community, like really tight knit community. And a lot of my friends come from the taxi community. Can't speak to Broad Jam though. Anybody has any follow up for that? All right. Okay.
I could throw something in. Song Trader's not too far off. We've definitely had taxi comparisons before, which is why we've made some of the kind of moves that we have. I think I remember being in a band and submitting to taxi, and like there's a sort of drive. There's a sort of like energy to that submission process that is kind of fun and makes you evaluate your own catalog and your own music. In a particular way and I think this is on their site where they say, the reason that they charge to review submissions is so that you have skin in the game and that you are selective. So I think it's, the more energy that you're generating on behalf of your catalog, great. And whatever makes sense for you financially. And with, we talk about this at Song Trader a lot. As part of the non-exclusive game is, in tandem with your licensing strategy and your sync strategy. So, would I recommend spending more than a 20, 30 bucks, like a normal subscription or like coffee money, honestly? Probably wouldn't recommend spending too much without getting a return on that. But like as a month-to-month process, submitting to various opportunities, cool. And I was just looking at Broadjam. They have some interesting services. There's one that's like pro feedback. On paper, like having facilitated feedback. I think it's a cool energy, but as long as you slot it into the right space and get a return on your investment. So as long as your work is getting tighter, your strategy is a little bit more honed in. So you read and review the briefs and say, okay, it looks like my catalog could be stronger if I had these alt mixes, these clean mixes. My instrumentals could be in this BPM range, anything like that. It can do wonders to just give you internal prompts on behalf of your catalog.
Awesome. I'm a big fan of Song Trader too. All right. Brian, got you up next.
Hey everyone. I'm new to Clubhouse. This is awesome. So thank you all for doing this. I'm a composer. I work with a few different music houses, and I'm pretty used to the quick turnarounds of customs and writing for industry releases. I feel pretty blessed since my first big placement was for a Wonder Woman 1984 trailer. So my question for Kelsey is, as a trailer music composer, should I also be trying to reach out to trailer houses, music supervisors, or editors, or should I stay away from all that and leave it to the publisher?
You said you're with 3 music houses?
A few different ones. Score, and Trailer Rebel.
Okay. I mean, I like both of those guys a lot, and
Cool,
I'm
yeah,
going to
awesome.
trust them, when I reach out to them and ask them for something, I'm going to trust that they give me the best of the best.
For sure.
And what I will say that if I start using cues a lot from like one particular composer, I know because I check all my own cue sheets, I review them all. So I start to know if there's one composer that is just like doing the damn thing, and I'll start to know your name. But I think those are good houses, and they're going to do the work for you. You just make the music, man.
Awesome. Good advice. Kiwi, got you up next. Kiwi?
Hi, how are you? So my question is, I am an artist and I'm based in Atlanta, singer-songwriter, also an actor, and I was pretty much interested in my lane was thinking of more so the libraries, but as far as preference, which do you think is better? Like, do you think it'd be better to go with an agency or a library?
There's not really a better. There's kind of like different. some advantages and some differences. I will direct you to we did actually a comparison in our site. So on our Sync 101 page, there is a document called 4 Ways to Get Major Music Placements. And we talk about pitching yourself, we talk about music libraries, and we talk about sync agencies. And we talk about kind of the pros and cons of each. So I encourage you to really check that out. And that'll tell you, that'll at least give you our insight into music libraries versus sync agencies. But if anybody wants to add to that, feel free.
I just wanted to add that it's, like you say, you just got to choose. It depends on what you feel is good for you. So just do your research, make sure you go and ask people who are part of that library or agency, see if you get a good vibe from them. So it's more like what's good for you and your music.
Yeah, and like if you need, I actually told a friend of mine, I was like, if you need some money now and you have some tracks that you think are syncable that you're not emotionally attached to, give those to a library, get that upfront payment, and then continue to search for a good publisher for your tracks that are your babies, basically.
I would like to say too, there's going to be a lot of different agreements on either side. Whether you go with a production library or a sync agency. But one of the common themes is you can find a lot more sync agencies that are willing to work with you on a non-exclusive basis, which means that, what production libraries mostly doing exclusive agreements, your music would only be repped at that one production library. But if you can find, do the research and find multiple sync agencies who work on a non-exclusive basis, then you essentially have multiple teams pushing your records for the different briefs that they come across.
Awesome. All right, Adam, you're up next.
Hey, what's going on? Honestly, I was really listening to everyone and listening to responses. I don't think I have any questions. Thank you guys so much. I think Kelsey and Jess, you guys were in one of these clubhouses last week when I started out. I had a few questions, but I pretty much have learned now you just have to attack everything from every angle and have music that's dope as fuck. So thank you guys for having this. This is super helpful. It's like having South by Southwest in my apartment here in Canada, where yes, it is snowing and I'm loving it. And I'm going to keep up with it. Thank you guys so much. This is awesome.
Awesome, Adam. Thanks so much for coming through.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
Kyler, what's good?
Hey, what's good, man? How you doing?
Good.
My question's for Kelsey. I originally thought this was going to be a little bit for everybody, so people feel free to chime in. But I was wondering, because Kelsey brought up Malcolm Gladwell, who's a hero of mine, mentioning his 10,000 hour rule, how long it takes to become an expert at any particular thing. The thing I'm wondering is, what kind of struggles or things are you working on yourself specifically right now? I know there's probably a huge pull for your time in particular, but I'm really curious for your role right now and other music supervisors. What's the thing that you're working on improving on?
Oh, thank you. That's a very thoughtful question. I think that sometimes at the end of the day, it's hard for me to put in my 2 hours of new music research, because I do get a little bit burnt out, and that's something that I'm constantly working at when I'm at home and not in an office to motivate me. So that's been kind of difficult. But also a challenge for me has been the new blanket library thing that's happening with companies. It's kind of stifling creativity, and honestly, it's been rough, and I don't know how much longer this is going to continue, because I'm gonna totally wipe these libraries clean with my polls pretty soon here. So I think other supervisors on here might have the blanket library struggle with me, but that's been the major thing.
Can you want to expound on that a little bit? What the blanket issue
Yeah,
is?
actually, I just realized I didn't do that. So especially now with the streaming services having their own content, they're trying to find ways to save the most money while selling the most content, basically. So the studios don't normally do this. These streaming services do, though, Netflix and Hulu. And then anytime you make something for like TNT or, Fox or ABC, they have deals with libraries in place. Most of the time, it's going to be Extreme, it's going to be APM, sometimes it's BMG. And they have deals where they're allowed to use whatever they want for those libraries for the year. And they pay those libraries one big fee in order to do that for their marketing materials. And that's just a trend that's kind of popped up in the past couple of years and has become kind of more widespread, with the same libraries each time, basically. That's what Blanket Library is.
That's what we do. That's what we have. We have like 7 deals, and they've been Blanket for years now. It just makes it easier for us.
Yeah. So that, at networks, especially with the in-house music team at networks. But when I'm making a trailer for like a Hulu original movie, and they tell me that I need to stick to approved libraries while also conveying the sense and emotion of this film, it makes me want to die.
Yeah, no, I have had to deal with that with other people providing content.
Yeah.
And then we're limited.
That's crazy
Yes,
because
exactly.
your sound is so specific, and to tell you that you need to use libraries, which may be making general, background music, and you have to use them. That's amazingly restricting.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And then, sometimes you can cut as many times as you can with those blanket libraries in order to show the client that, nope, you do need to spend money on a cue, and then they will, because they'll see. It's just, you have to communicate with the client, that you get what you pay for to a certain extent. And please, people, sell your songs to these libraries so I have more to work with. Oh my God.
Wow, that spurs so much other discussion, but I'm gonna take notes and bring this up in a future talk. It's really interesting. All right, Mike, with the last question. Mike, you there? Uh-oh, gonna lose the last question spot.
Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry about that, man. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. It's been a great talk. My question's kind of directed towards Kelsey or any other suit, I guess. By the way, Kelsey, I love the memes you post on Insta. They crack me up.
Oh, amazing. I'm glad somebody's enjoying this.
Memes literally have got me through 2020, like, period. But anyway, so yeah, like my story, I grew up just like absolutely loving soundtracks and film ever since I saw the movie The Doors when I was like 10. I just loved rock music and the marriage of those two things. And I just went to NYU scoring for advertising a few years ago. And I tried to be like, that like composer, the sophisticated composer, and do trailers with like the sounds that are like, type shit. But I love rock and I can't get away from it. So I just did rock stuff, and it got a really great response from my professor. And he was like, you would be my rock guy. And then a few years later, I just submitted a few months ago my first song ever to like any type of sync people. And it got picked up by a sync agency. And I just know that like kind of rock is my thing. So do you guys have any libraries particularly, or agencies, companies that kind of crush the rock game? Because I'm finishing up my tracks now and I kind of want to get ready to send them out.
Are you doing like rock hybrid, as in like for trailers, or are you talking about just like straight rock?
There's straight rock, but I know how to do the trailer thing, so I'm gonna be composing both versions,
Yeah, I mean, I love a rock hybrid track. That's my jam. And if you're looking to like sell that kind of stuff, I know BMGPM has a lot of good rock hybrid that I normally pull that kind of stuff from if you want to just like sell some stuff. But okay. I mean, rock, I think music publishing wise, there's going to be a lot of companies out there that do that. I think somebody else can answer that better than me.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah, rock is huge in sync. I'd get placements. I have 2 rock bands that I'm frontman for, and a lot of my placements are through them. And so as well as on the hip hop and the R&B side, the rock is all over the place. So it's not like, whereas on major radio might feel limiting, in the sync world, it's not. at all?
We tend to use a lot of Swagger Rock for highlights and stuff.
Yeah. Also, look up Lip Sync Agency. I'm sorry. Look up Lip Sync Music. I used to work there, and they rock, swagger rock, pitching for like Jack Daniels kind of stuff. So try reaching out to them.
Awesome. Daraj, did you want to come in at this point before we wrap up?
Yeah, definitely. This is, as per usual, I mean, this is a really rich discussion. I think, our audience asked some really, really great questions, and I feel like we got some, some really useful and really practical dialogue. I feel like I don't say more than usual, but I mean, I like kind of some of the targeted questions, like which particular libraries or agencies might be of use, because I'm always into helping people cross the finish line and having actionable steps. So I just really appreciated this talk in particular. But again, I mean, we probably can't say it enough, Kelsey. We thank you for just giving us your time and your wisdom and your expertise for this amount of time. It's again, like, our community is based around the independent artists just looking to break into this side, and it's not always easy getting in front of the people who have these answers. I mean, even one of the questions that was put up is just like, how I send music, and sometimes I don't get a reply back of what I need to do differently. You know what I mean? And so just the fact that somebody who is as accomplished as you are would just speak into it and help crack the code a little bit is invaluable. So we really, really appreciate you, Kelsey. And
Well, thank you so much. I honestly love this stuff. I nerd out on it, and if I had more time to give everybody individual advice, I would. So this is the next best thing.
Yeah, no, and that's why we created this space. That's why we have these room replays. We want to try to be that extension for you all. So that's why we try to invite different supervisors. Because again, I know there are, I don't think you probably as any supervisor, if they would want to help, and if they had the opportunity to help, if they would, it's just sometimes it's just only but so many hours in a day. And so, our service even to you all is to try to be that extension where you may not be able to, engage everybody. We can kind of, distribute on your behalf, if you will. But either way, we appreciate you. And as always, all of our moderators that come up, every week and add, to the conversation and answer questions. We appreciate you all. I see we got some new people on the stage as well. I see AD with Universal Music Group is here on stage, and we got Katrina from Disco saving everybody in music supervision. So
Love
welcome
Disco.
you all. We
Yeah,
appreciate you all.
same.
Shout out to
Disco's
both of
huge.
y'all. What's up?
Disco. Woohoo! Nice to see everyone. I've kind of been listening for the last 2 hours. It's all been really great. Clubhouse is awesome. You guys are awesome, and yeah.
So glad
We
to have you here.
appreciate you. Yeah, I think we need to probably reach back out to Katrina because we talk so much about disco.
Yeah, we're gonna need to do a room for real.
Yeah, we should definitely get a room going. That'd be fun.
That'll be great. We'll do that.
Yeah.
And Alyssa, hey again. See you here. Thanks for joining us again.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And anybody who's here who has not had a chance to speak, Jessica, I see you here. How are you, Rawadi? And I see.
What's up?
Good to see
What's up,
you.
Jessica?
Hi, I'm just listening. Everyone's doing great. Love you.
Welcome. Love you too. All right. So look, the party's not over. We are moving on to the after party. So if you're free, if you're hanging out, if you're on the West Coast, I know you're still up because I'm on the East Coast and I'm still up. So we're going over to the after party where it's more, we just kind of bring people up on stage. We get to know each other. We kind of chat a lot more informally. So we're going to shut this room down, open that one up. If you feel like hanging out, come through. And for everyone else who has to go, we thank you for coming through. We really appreciate you, and we will see you at the next control camp.
Yes. Go follow Control Camp on Instagram too.
Thank you, you guys. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you
Yeah,
again, Kelsey.
absolutely.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, see you guys. Have a great day or evening, I should say.